1206 AD, the thunder of hooves shakes the Mongolian steppe as Genghis Khan's cavalry sweeps across the horizon. 100,000 warriors, armed with composite bows and curved sabers, prepare to unleash the most devastating military campaign in human history. From the Great Wall of China to the gates of Vienna, nothing will stop this unstoppable war machine. But let's change one thing. Hovering silently above the Mongol encampment is something that shouldn't exist for another 800 years. A swarm of modern military drones equipped with precision missiles, thermal imaging, and artificial intelligence. So what happens when cutting-edge 21st century warfare technology gets dropped into the hands of history's most adaptive conquerors? Can drone swarms turn the already terrifying Mongol war machine into an unstoppable force of annihilation? Or will medieval siege warfare prove that sometimes old-school tactics trump high-tech gadgetry? First, let's examine exactly what we just handed to the most successful military strategists in human history. Modern military drones represent the pinnacle of technological warfare. We're talking about MQ-9 Reapers that can loiter over battlefields for 14 hours straight, armed with Hellfire missiles that can thread the needle through a window from 5 miles away. These aren't your neighborhood hobbyist quadcopters. These are flying death machines powered by satellite guidance systems and equipped with sensors that can spot a rabbit from 20,000 feet. Each Reaper carries 4 Hellfire missiles, each packing 20 pounds of explosive power designed to turn armored vehicles into scrap metal. The drone's multispectral targeting system can track heat signatures through smoke, fog, and darkness, making every enemy soldier glow like a Christmas tree on the pilot screen. But here's where it gets really interesting. We're not just talking about the big boys. Modern warfare has shown us the devastating power of small FPV kamikaze drones that cost less than $1,000 but can destroy million-dollar tanks. These little suicide bombers are piloted through first-person view goggles, giving operators the ability to fly them directly into enemy weak points with surgical precision. In Ukraine right now, these cheap drones are accounting for 70% of battlefield casualties. A single FPV drone carrying an RPG warhead can take out a $24 million missile system. The cost-to-kill ratio is absolutely insane. Now imagine handing this technology to Genghis Khan and his generals. These weren't just brutal warriors. They were tactical geniuses who revolutionized warfare by adapting everything they encountered. The Mongols didn't invent siege engines, gunpowder weapons, or psychological warfare. They stole these innovations from conquered peoples and perfected them into unstoppable military doctrines. Persian engineers taught them to build trebuchets. Chinese craftsmen showed them how to use gunpowder bombs. Muslim scholars helped them coordinate massive multi-front campaigns. The Mongols were the ultimate military adapters, and they just got handed the most adaptable weapons platform in human history. Picture this scenario. The Mongol army approaches the heavily fortified city of Zhongdu, modern-day Beijing. Traditionally, this would mean months of siege warfare, building massive catapults and starving out defenders. But now, a swarm of 50 kamikaze drones rises from the Mongol camp at dawn. The city's guards see what looks like a flock of strange birds approaching the walls. Within minutes, every gate, every watchtower, and every defensive position erupts in synchronized explosions. The fortress that should have held for months falls in less than an hour. But the real game changer isn't just the firepower. It's the intelligence gathering. Mongol scouts were legendary for their ability to map enemy territories and identify weak points. Now equip them with thermal imaging drones that can fly reconnaissance missions 50 miles behind enemy lines. Every troop movement, every supply convoy, every hidden ambush gets spotted and tracked in real time. The Mongol information advantage, already devastating in the 13th century, becomes absolutely overwhelming. The psychological impact would be beyond anything medieval warfare had ever seen. Imagine being a Song dynasty general watching your supposedly impregnable fortress get dismantled by invisible attackers from the sky. Your troops would think they're facing demons or gods. The Mongols already weaponized terror as a military strategy. Cities would surrender just to avoid the horror stories spreading from previous battles. Now add unexplainable death from above, and entire regions would capitulate without a fight. The Mongols mastered the art of feigned retreat, one of their most devastating tactical innovations. Traditional Mongol cavalry would pretend to flee in disarray, luring enemy forces into breaking formation and pursuing what appeared to be a defeated army. Once the enemy was strung out and vulnerable, the Mongols would suddenly wheel around and annihilate their disorganized pursuers. Now imagine this classic tactic enhanced with drone technology. A Mongol force approaches a heavily defended European castle. They execute their traditional feigned retreat, galloping away in apparent panic as the garrison's knights charge out in pursuit. But this time, overhead surveillance drones are tracking every movement. The moment the pursuing knights commit to the chase and move beyond the safety of their walls, a coordinated drone strike eliminates their escape route back to the castle. Simultaneously, kamikaze drones punch through the now lightly defended gates. The knights find themselves trapped in open ground, cut off from reinforcement, while their supposedly secure fortress burns behind them. The Mongols revolutionized siege warfare by adapting technologies from every culture they conquered. At Xiangyang, they spent 6 years perfecting trebuchet designs with Persian engineers until they created siege engines powerful enough to breach walls that had never been broken. But siege warfare just became obsolete. Why spend months building catapults when you can deploy drone swarms that bypass walls entirely? Medieval fortifications were designed to stop ground-based attacks and primitive projectiles. They offer zero protection against precision strikes from above. Consider the Siege of Vienna in 1241. Historically, the Mongol invasion of Europe stalled partly due to the time and resources required to crack heavily fortified positions. With drone technology, European castles become death traps instead of safe havens. Thermal imaging identifies exactly where defenders are positioned. Precision strikes eliminate key personnel like commanders and siege engineers. Small reconnaissance drones map internal layouts by flying through windows and gaps. The psychological advantage of seemingly invulnerable stone walls evaporates when death can strike from any angle at any moment. The Mongol military operated through a decimal system of organization. Units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 warriors could coordinate across vast distances using horns, flags, and smoke signals. Drone technology transforms this coordination capability into something resembling telepathy. Real-time battlefield intelligence flows instantly between commanders separated by hundreds of miles. A Mongol general in Hungary can coordinate simultaneous attacks with forces in Poland based on live reconnaissance feeds. This level of battlefield awareness and coordination wouldn't be matched in actual history until radio technology emerged 6 centuries later. But here's where the Mongols truly become unstoppable. Their greatest strength was adaptability and learning from every enemy they faced. Within months of acquiring drone technology, Mongol engineers would be reverse engineering captured units and improving the designs. They developed specialized drones for different tactical roles, reconnaissance variants with extended flight times for deep intelligence gathering, heavy assault drones carrying larger payloads for fortress busting, swarm coordinators that can manage hundreds of smaller units simultaneously. The economic implications are staggering. Traditional medieval warfare required massive investments in siege equipment, supply trains, and months of campaigning to capture a single city. Drone warfare collapses these timelines and costs. A fortress that would historically require a year-long siege with thousands of casualties falls in hours with minimal losses. The Mongol war machine, already efficient at converting conquest into economic power, becomes exponentially more profitable. European military doctrine would crumble overnight. Medieval armies were built around heavily armored knights, massive stone fortifications, and slow-moving infantry formations. None of these defensive strategies work against precision aerial strikes. The technological gap becomes so overwhelming that resistance movements would likely collapse before they could organize. Word of these impossible defeats would spread faster than the Mongol advance itself. The ripple effects extend beyond pure military conquest. Mongol expansion facilitated the largest transfer of knowledge, technology, and culture in pre-modern history. The Silk Road flourished under Mongol protection. Now imagine that expansion happening 10 times faster with drone-enhanced logistics and security. So what's the verdict? Would modern drones turn Genghis Khan's already terrifying war machine into an unstoppable force of complete annihilation? Absolutely. We're talking about taking the most adaptive military minds in human history and handing them weapons that wouldn't be invented for another 8 centuries. The Mongols conquered a quarter of the world's landmass with horses and arrows. Give them precision-guided death from above. And they don't just conquer the known world, they reshape the entire course of human civilization. The psychological impact alone would end organized resistance before it could begin. Medieval armies would surrender at the first sight of impossible destruction raining from empty skies. Castle walls become meaningless. Knight armor becomes irrelevant. The very foundations of medieval warfare crumble in the face of technology that might as well be magic to 13th century minds. But here's the truly terrifying part. In real history, the Mongol Empire eventually fragmented and declined. With drone technology accelerating their conquest timeline from decades to years, that decline never happens. Instead of ruling for 2 centuries, a drone-enhanced Mongol Empire could dominate for a millennium or more, fundamentally altering the trajectory of human development. The combination of medieval adaptability and modern lethality creates something genuinely unstoppable. History's greatest conquerors just got handed history's most revolutionary weapons. The result isn't just military victory, it's the complete redefinition of what's possible in warfare.